And then Cagiva came up offering a lot of money, and everybody thought, oh, it's Eddie Lawson's going to go to Cagiva, take a lot of money, probably retire in a couple of years.
The Cagiva story is a wild one, and it doesn't kick off on some noisy racetrack. It all started back in 1950, when a guy named Giovanni Castiglione opened up a small metal parts shop in Varese, Italy. The name Cagiva itself is a cool little acronym that tells you everything you need to know. Castiglione Giovanni Varese. Turns out, being good at shaping metal was the perfect foundation for what came next. The real game changer happened in 1978, when Giovanni's two sons, Claudio and Gianfranco, decided to pivot the family business and dive headfirst into the motorcycle industry. The Castiglione brothers' first move was pure genius. Instead of starting from scratch, they just went ahead and bought the whole Ermacchi AMF Harley-Davidson factory right there in Sciarrana, Varese. It was like getting a turnkey business in a box. They didn't just get a production facility, they got skilled workers and even a lineup of existing bike models. Everything from 125 cubic centimeters to 350 cubic centimeters two-strokes. All they had to do was slap a Cagiva badge on them and start selling. This strategy let them skip the long, expensive R&D process. The result? By 1979, Cagiva was pumping out 40,000 bikes a year, an insane number for a brand that was basically brand new. This move set the tone for how Cagiva would operate. Grow fast through smart acquisitions. Riding high on that early success, Cagiva went on an aggressive shopping spree in the 80s. They started scooping up legendary Italian and Swedish brands that were hitting hard times. Big names like Ducati, Moto Morini, and Husqvarna all got added to their portfolio. This transformed Cagiva from a single brand into a powerhouse conglomerate known as the Cagiva Group. Out of all those buyouts, snagging Ducati was the most transformative. Cagiva was smart enough to keep the world-famous Ducati name, but behind the scenes, they started mixing and matching technology. Even before they fully bought Ducati, starting in 1983, Cagiva was already using Ducati's tough V-twin or L-twin four-stroke engines in their own bikes. This gave Cagiva instant access to high-performance power plants, letting them jump into the big bike market with models like the Allazura and, most importantly, the legendary Elephant. This relationship was a perfect win-win. Cagiva provided the cash to save Ducati, and Ducati provided the heart that would power Cagiva to its most iconic victories. The Castiglione brothers knew that passion and top-notch engineering were two sides of the same coin. They set up the Cagiva Research Center in San Marino in 1987 and poached the legendary designer Massimo Tamburini from Bimota in 1985. This creative hub, which also became a breeding ground for future stars like Pierre Terblanche and Miguel Angel Galuzzi, became the design brain for the entire group. It was here that iconic designs like the Cagiva Mito, a bike inspired by the Ducati 916 and the first factory ride for a young Valentino Rossi, and, of course, the stunning Ducati 916 itself were born. But building an empire is expensive. The financial pressure eventually forced Cagiva to sell off Ducati and Moto Morini to the Texas Pacific Group in 1996 to get some much-needed cash. The company's focus then shifted to MV Agusta, a brand they had acquired the rights to in 1991. The whole company was restructured, with MV Agusta becoming the main brand and Cagiva getting demoted to a secondary role. This was the beginning of the end for the Cagiva name, a process ironically sped up by a brief sale of the MV Agusta Group to Harley-Davidson in 2008, before Claudio Castiglione bought it back in 2010.
Could we dare say a Grand Prix win?
You can't tell the Cagiva story without talking about their insane ambitions in the world of racing. From the smooth asphalt of Grand Prix tracks to the brutal sands of the desert, the Red Elephant from Varese went all in and left its mark. Cagiva's journey in the premier class of Grand Prix racing is an epic tale of grit, innovation, and tragic irony. It's the story of a small Italian factory that dared to challenge the dominance of the Japanese giants. Cagiva's GP 500 debut in 1980 was a real hold my beer moment. They showed up with the 1C2, a hodgepodge bike using a Yamaha TZ 500 inline-4 engine case with Cagiva's own cylinders, ridden by Virginio Ferrari. The result? A total disaster. The bike qualified dead last and had to quit after just one lap. A harsh lesson that the road to the top was going to be a long one. Learning from that failure, Cagiva adopted a if you can't beat 'em, copy 'em strategy. For the 1982 season, they ditched the inline-4 and rolled out the C2, a new bike with a square 4 engine that was a blatant copy of the World Championship-winning Suzuki RG 500. It was a smart move to mimic the best tech of the time. While the engine had some punch, Cagiva's homemade aluminum frame made the bike a wild, unpredictable ride. Still, the new direction started to pay off. 350cc world champ John Eckerold managed to finish 10th at Hockenheim in 1982, scoring Cagiva's first ever world championship point. It was a small but huge milestone, proof that they were finally on the right track. By 1985, Cagiva realized the square 4 was a dead end. They once again followed the trend set by Honda and Yamaha, developing their first V4 engine for the C10 bike. The early version was heavy and had a super narrow power band, making it a beast to ride. But they developed it fast. By 1987, they teamed up with Mikuni to create a much more compact 56-degree V4 engine for the C587. This bike started to show real potential, with Didier de Radigues grabbing a 4th-place finish. The real turning point came in 1988, when they signed American star Randy Mamola. Signing Mamola was a strategic masterstroke. Cagiva didn't just need a fast rider, they needed a world-class developer who could give them priceless feedback. Mamola, a perennial world championship runner-up, was the perfect guy. On the C588, he delivered Cagiva's first ever GP 500 podium at Spa, Belgium. The 1989 C589 bike was a visual masterpiece designed by Massimo Tamburini, featuring slick bodywork, upside-down Öhlins forks, and an iconic banana swing arm. But beneath its beautiful skin, the bike was deeply flawed. A weird rear shock layout and a front-heavy weight distribution 60-40 created massive handling and traction problems. The 150 horsepower engine had an incredibly narrow power band, only really working between 10,000 and 12,200 RPM, which made it a nightmare to ride on the limit. As a result, Mamola spent most of the season entertaining the crowds with spectacular wheelies, rather than getting results, finishing the season way down in 18th place. To make the final leap from a midfield team to a race winner, Cagiva needed a true champion. They signed 4-time world champion Eddie Lawson for the 1991 season, a clear statement of their ambition. Lawson, nicknamed Steady Eddie, was known for his smooth style and incredible bike development skills. He delivered immediately, scoring 2 podiums in 1991 and finishing 6th in the championship.
Waiting, there's the green flag at the rear of the grid.
The moment they had been waiting for over a decade finally came on July 12th, 1992, at the Hungarian Grand Prix. The race started on a wet track that was drying out fast. While most of the front runners were on full wet tires, the Cagiva team made a brilliant gamble. They put semi-wet, cut-slick tires on Lawson's C592. Lawson had to be careful in the early laps, but as the track dried, his tires became the superior choice. He went on a tear, hunting down and passing legends like Wayne Rainey and Randy Mamola. With 2 laps to go, he caught and passed race leader Doug Chandler to take the win.
Eddie Lawson has done it! Giacomo Agostini, the Cagiva team manager, somewhere in there.
Lawson's victory was Cagiva's first ever win in the 500cc Premier class. It was a win earned not just with speed, but with strategy, experience, and guts. Poetically, it was also the final victory of Eddie Lawson's incredible career. With Lawson retired, Cagiva signed the blindingly fast but notoriously hot-headed American talent John Kaczynski for the 1993 season. The bikes he would ride, the V593 and C594, were the pinnacle of Cagiva's engineering. They were packed with cutting-edge tech like a carbon alloy composite frame and a ridiculously expensive carbon fiber swing arm. The combination of Kaczynski's raw talent and Cagiva's advanced frame turned the team from a dark horse into a serious contender. Kaczynski himself said the bike's greatest strength was its agility and how easily it turned. He won the U.S. Grand Prix at Laguna Seca in 1993. In 1994, on the C594, he was a genuine title threat. He won the season opener in Australia and scored a total of 7 podiums, finishing the season third in the World Championship. Cagiva had finally made it to the big leagues.
We're going to give him a go, John Kaczynski.
But here's the tragic irony of Cagiva's story. The 1994 season was their best ever. Their bike was arguably one of the best on the grid, and Kaczynski was convinced it could win the World Championship in 1995 with just a few tweaks. Then, out of nowhere, at the absolute peak of their success, Cagiva announced they were pulling out of Grand Prix racing. The reason? They were broke. The massive investment it took to get to the top had drained their finances. They had fought the Goliaths and won, only to collapse from the effort. Their ambition was their greatest asset and their fatal flaw. While battling it out on the asphalt, Cagiva also set its sights on the most extreme off-road challenge on the planet, the Paris-Dakar Rally. This project was a perfect example of strategic synergy, blending 2 different areas of expertise to create a machine purpose-built for one thing, conquering the desert. The Elephant project kicked off in the mid-'80s, leveraging the company's motocross experience and, crucially, their new ownership of Ducati. The Elephant was born from this fusion, built around the heart of a Ducati 90-degree V-twin air-cooled engine, famous for its monster torque and durability. The definitive race-winning engine was a heavily modified 904 cubic centimeter and later 944 cubic centimeter unit from a Ducati 900 SS. Dressed in the iconic white, red, and gold livery of its sponsor, Lucky Strike, the bike became a legend known as the Lucky Explorer. The factory Dakar version of the Elephant was a pure prototype, described as a MotoGP bike for the desert. The 904 cubic centimeter Ducati engine was extensively modified by the Ducati race department, featuring magnesium engine covers, a dry sump lubrication system, and a stronger 5-speed gearbox with wider gears. The chassis was a custom-built steel tube trellis frame. The suspension was top of the line, using long travel Marzocchi forks and a sophisticated Erlins rear monoshock. The design was a masterclass in rally strategy. The bike could carry up to 65 liters, about 17 gallons, of fuel across multiple tanks, giving it a range of over 450 kilometers or 280 miles. Its navigation equipment was state-of-the-art, borrowing tech from the aviation world. Despite its massive size, the use of aluminum and carbon fiber kept the dry weight down to around 180 to 187 kilograms. After years of trying, Cagiva finally hit the jackpot in 1990. Italian rider Eddie Orioli rode the Elephant 900 IE to victory in the 12th Paris-Dakar Rally, breaking Honda's 4-year winning streak. It was a monumental win for Cagiva and Ducati, validating their entire strategy after a brutal 12,000-kilometer race.
Well, possible enough to cut Orioli's...
Orioli and the Elephant did it again in 1994. This second win was arguably even more impressive because Orioli was competing as a privateer. It showcased the fundamental superiority and reliability of the Elephant's design, proving the bike could win even without full factory backing. These 2 victories cemented the Elephant's place as one of the most iconic machines in Dakar history. Unlike their GP 500 project, where they were often playing catch-up, out in the desert, Cagiva was the one setting the standard. The financial strain from their ambitious racing programs and empire building forced Cagiva to make some tough choices in the mid to late 90s. Selling Ducati in 1996 was a pivotal moment, ending the incredible synergy between the two brands but providing a much-needed cash infusion. The company's focus and resources were then poured into their most prestigious acquisition, MV Agusta. The Cagiva Group effectively became the MV Agusta Group. The launch of the breathtaking MV Agusta F4, also designed by Tamburini, signaled this new direction. As MV Agusta rose, the Cagiva brand slowly faded into the background. Production of its famous models, like the iconic Mito 125, was eventually stopped, with the final units being personally signed by Giovanni Castiglione, Claudio's son. The Cagiva brand is now largely dormant, existing as a legacy name within the MV Agusta company.